Grand Archive is a trading card game developed in 2022 and published by Weebs of the Shore. In this game, you get to play as one of dozens of unique champions. I'll be going over 20 of the champions available in the game and ranking them based on their design, from their general aesthetics to their interesting, unique mechanics. S tier is reserved for the absolute best the game has to offer. D tier is for champions that could use some work, new cards, general rework in their mechanics, and everything in between is pretty self-explanatory. The first champion I'm going to talk about is the mascot of the franchise, Sylvie. Sylvie is a tamer. She works with animals and beasts, and her current iteration focuses on slime cards, my favorite allies in the game because they're very cute, like green slime. Level 1 Sylvie here and green slime were part of the early edition of the game, but a few sets later they updated her and gave her new slimes, like baby green slime, who's even cuter. And they gave her a new level 3 that allowed her to really take advantage of all these slimes, and gave her advanced element slimes, powerful ones like storm slime. And I don't think this is the most creative design, and I don't like that Sylvie looks like a child, but I love all of the adorable slime allies that she utilizes. Makes me very happy, as seen here. So, Sylvie is going to go in A tier, because I'm biased. The next champion on the list is Rai. Rai is a mage, one of the first couple of heroes in the game. He works with enlightened counters. His whole shtick is learning more to gain enlightened counters that draw him more cards. Stuff like careful study gives him more enlightened counters, and his efficiency ability allows him to cast careful study for a reasonable cost once you get to higher levels. And then generally you're finishing the game off with stuff like Fireball, which, you know, is what we expect from mages, I guess. I don't think Rai is the most unique champion. I find him kind of boring. However, he was one of the first champions, and he hasn't really gotten any work done on him recently, so I'll give him some slack. But I will have to put him in C tier. Not great, but what can you expect from a fucking mage? The next champion on the list is one of the first, and to this day, one of the strongest champions, Lorraine. Lorraine is a very generic idea of a warrior. She works with swords. Her level 1 brings out swords. Her level 3 also cares about swords. Even cooler, advanced element swords. Lorraine just likes swords, and that's kind of boring to me. As you can see, even her powerful endgame spells, they care about swords. And I'm not a huge fan of Lorraine, but she is very powerful if you want to start off the game with a simple yet powerful champion. But as for her design, she's going in B tier at best. Next champion on the list is Xander. Xander, we're going to look at his level 3 because this is the most interesting part about him. He uses a very, very annoying, grindy play style of getting to level 3, maybe falling behind a little bit in damage, but then stabilizing by healing, by revealing stuff like Luxem Sight to recover 3, and chipping away at the opponent with damage when Lightweaver's Sol is revealed. He is very, very annoying to play against, but overall, I guess he's pretty cool. But I hate playing against him, so he's going in C tier with Rai. Fuck you, Xander. The next champion comes from the first expansion set to Grand Archive Fractured Crown, and it is the first double class hero, Merlin. Merlin is actually pretty interesting in how she plays. Similar to Xander, you can fall behind a little bit because once she gets to her level 3, she generates a lot of advantage, drawing cards, extra cards every other turn, gaining more levels to use cards like Fireball, and her endgame, her payoff is meant to be Incarnate Majesty, which has efficiency and therefore can be cast for, as low as 3 or 4 if you get enough level counters on Merlin. And that brings out this horse guy, Majestic Spirit, who basically protects you for the rest of the game until your opponent is able to actually remove him from the board. And honestly, I love her design aesthetically, respectfully. I like the idea of gaining level counters. I like the idea of being able to use class bonus of Mage and Warrior. But I don't think she is as particularly interesting as future champions that would come out, so I'm going to put her in B tier with Lorraine. The next champion on the list is Arisana from the third expansion of Grand Archive, Alchemical Revolution. Arisana is very cool. One of the first really cool champions they made. She works with herbs. Her level 1 here immediately gathers, where you roll a die and randomly generate herbs. Freesia, Blightroot are 2 of them. There are 3 different effects and 6 different herbs. The 3 effects are spread across the 6 different herbs. And sometimes she uses them to brew potions, but generally she uses them with Polaris, the Twinkling Cauldron, to put a bunch of counters on and eventually blow up the cauldron to kill all the allies on the board. And then once she gets to level 3, that Polaris threw in a bunch of cosmic bolts, which have the ability Star Calling. Whenever you glimpse, which is scry in other games, looking at the top cards of your deck, rearranging them, you just get to cast it from there. And level 3 Ari allows you to do the first one for free every turn. And so her playstyle is just generating all these cosmic bolts, then looking up to the sky, and then just generating them out of nowhere. And I think that's just super cool. She's a white girl interested in astrology. Just very basic as a concept in real life, but the way it plays out in the card game is super interesting. And honestly, I'm going to put Arisana at A tier. I think she deserves it. The next champion is not as interesting as Arisana, but still very interesting. And that champion is Tony. Tony, this is level 3 you can see here, generates these obelisks. He just builds these infrastructures. He's a working man. Very respectable. I frankly love Tony, and I hate that he's one of the less playable champions in the game because the developers seem to hate him. He also generates these great swords, which can be used to attack people, and generates these drones, these allies to attack people. He has a lot of health, but he doesn't get to do much. He occasionally swings for a lot of damage, but oftentimes those attacks will just get negated. And he doesn't have anything to really push him over the top in the metagame. But I think Tony is really cool, building stuff, being a guardian that has a lot of health, working with robots. Tony's a cool guy, and you know what? He deserves at least B tier. I think he's at least as interesting as these other women. Yeah. Next champion is Diana, also from Alchemical Revolution. Diana's the first gun girl, as we'll call her. And Diana loves to just play with guns and bullets. And the way they work is the guns are weapons that you materialize, and the bullets you have to load into the guns, which then shoot at the opponent and do damage equal to the damage of the bullets plus the gun. It's pretty interesting, and it was definitely very interesting at first, but it's kind of complicated, and so I don't like Diana, because I'm not the smartest person on the planet, and I just have a tough time understanding all the interactions between her weapons. So, because I'm biased, Diana is going to go in C tier. The next three champions I'm going to talk about are villainous versions of each of the Alchemical Revolution champions: Diana, Tony, and Arisana. The first one we'll talk about is Polcock. He is the ranger, evil ranger in this arc of the story. He's just this big boy versus Diana, shoots with a lot of smaller guns with smaller bullets. Polcock goes for much larger attacks. Calamity Cannon, his signature card, adds 10 damage to his first gun weapon on his next turn. It costs a lot, but you know, he doesn't deserve to be that good in the meta, in my opinion, because he's kind of boring, kind of lazy. You have to be lazy to get that size in many cases, but I can respect the amount of weight he's able to lift. I think he probably doesn't deserve D tier, so we're gonna put him in with Xander and Rye and his hero counterpart Diana. After Polcock, there is Nico, the evil counterpart to Tony. This is an evil guardian. And Nico is actually at least cool in her design. She is a dominatrix type woman. Weebs has to sell cards somehow. And she attacks with her lashes. She gets lash counters that allow her to mill the opponent, something that a lot of people don't like in games. They don't like their cards being discarded from their deck. But you look at her tools, Ravishing Finale being her finishing card, and overall, I think she's actually pretty cool. Respectfully, of course. And I'm going to put her in A tier. Finally, the third of the evil counterparts to the Alchemical Revolution champions is my least favorite, Vanitas. He's a cleric, but his whole shtick is that he attacks the opponent. He's one of the champions in the game that has an attack stat, and he gets more attack every time he plays spells, which I guess is cleric adjacent. But I've never seen a cleric, beat the brakes off people like Vanitas is trying to do. I guess it's pretty evil, but I don't know. I don't think it fits cleric as a class. So I'm going to put Vanitas along with Polcock and the boys in C tier. The next hero from the 4th expansion, Mercurial Heart, and the Recollection deck that came with it is Tristan. Tristan's level 3, you can see here, summons these cool shadow tokens, like shadow clones in one of your favorite anime. She's able to redirect attacks to the ominous shadow tokens using preparation counters that she accumulates with other cards. She's also able to go into a alternate level 3 Shadow Reaver, which can steal the opponent's cards and draw you extra cards once she goes into her main level 3 Shadow Dancer, which not any other champion is able to do. Nothing is that cool. Her main win condition is Shadow Strike. Once you've accumulated enough preparation counters with all of her other cards, you can just launch an unblockable attack at the opponent, potentially kill them in a single turn. I've seen Shadow Strikes for upwards of 27 damage. And not gonna lie, Tristan also looks pretty good. So we're going to put Tristan in A tier. The next champion to talk about comes from the 5th expansion of Grand Archive Mortal Ambition, and that is Jin. Jin, as we can see with his level 3, is literally too angry to die. On your final turn, you can deal as much damage as you want to him, and as long as by the end of the turn you're within his life total, you stay alive. He has cards that damage himself, like Shuang Ji of Sacrifice, that deals damage to him and gets more powerful the more damage he has on him. Just be on fire with 60 damage on him, and he is getting another 12 attack. And on top of that, he has cards like Enrage that deal even more damage to him and give it even more power. It costs less to use if you're already almost dead. Jin is a very cool idea. He can deal just 5 Gorillion damage, once you get towards those really high damage totals, and I find him very interesting, so I'm going to actually put him as the first champion in S tier. Next we have Kongming from the same set, Mortal Ambition. Kongming has a very interesting concept. She levels up into her level 1 and immediately gains Shifting Currents Mastery. Every turn, you get to change the direction of the currents into north, south, west, or east, and all of her cards have something to do with what direction the current is facing. So Gem of Searing Flame, as a spell, it deals 2 damage whenever you change the currents from north to west. Her level 2, when you get to her, draws you extra cards every time you change from north to south. And once she gets to level 3, she starts changing the currents all over the place. Every time you activate a spell, you change the current to whatever direction you want. And her big payoff is supposed to be Planar Abyss, which destroys everything. And if your shifting currents face south, you deal 10 damage to the enemy champion, which ends up not being very reliable. However, the general idea of Kongming switching the direction of the currents and all of her cards doing different things when you do so, I think is very cool. So I'm going to put Kongming in A tier with the other girls because I think she deserves it. From the 6th expansion and the Recollection decks that came along with it, we have Dao Chan. Dao Chan is interesting, but I think a bit convoluted, and I'll explain why. Her level 1 gains Glimmer counters, which allow you to cast reaction spells on your opponent's turn by using the Glimmer counters instead of paying for those reactions cost. And not only that, you get to play them straight from your memory. So as you have already paid for the reserve cost for another card you played, you get to use those for free with Dao Chan level 1. But here's where it gets complicated. Once she gets to level 3, she starts putting Wither counters, which at the start of your opponent's turn, your opponent has to pay taxes, basically, to keep their objects in play. And whenever an object your opponent controls is destroyed, you get to banish it, which is cool, and you summon a Flower Bud token. And Flower Bud tokens don't do anything until they are hatched into different poisonous flowers, like Nightshade. There are cards that turn your opponent's flower buds into these kinds of poisonous things that all have a negative effect on your opponent at the start of their turn. This one, again, puts Wither counters that makes them pay taxes, basically, for all their stuff. And overall, I think there's too much going on with Dao Chan. She has two things she's kind of going for, and the whole Flower Bud and Wither counter idea of her level 3 is just too inefficient to work in the metagame. And so the only time we see Dao Chan played, which is a fair amount, is by using her level 1 to abuse reaction cards and just play cards for free. It's very efficient. Her level 1 is very good, but I think the entirety of her design is too complicated and needs to be refined in order to be placed in a higher tier. So, despite how she looks, I'm going to beat any simping allegations, and Dao Chan will be put in C tier. I'm about to spoil her ranking, but the next champion is perhaps my favorite of all of the champions out right now, and that's Goja. Goja has a very interesting mechanic. She works with Fate Stones, which are dual-side cards that are rocks that flip into cooler stuff. So she starts out bringing out a Fate Stone Regalia when she comes out, which comes with it a quest. Fabled Azurite Fate Stone, the quest is to banish cards from your memory. And once you get enough quest counters, you get to pay those quest counters to flip into these awesome monsters. Seryu, the Azure Dragon, is the payoff for the Azurite Fate Stone, but she has 3 other Shenju, as they are called, to flip into. She has the Emerald Fate Stone that flips into Byaku White Tiger. She has the Ruby Fate Stone that flips into Suzaku the Phoenix. And the one I play the most, the Sapphire Fate Stone, flips into Genbu the Black Tortoise. And all of these have their different play styles. All of their quests are very different, and all of them are super interesting to play. I have played with every version of Goja. The turtle is my favorite just because I like turtles. But the best part of Goja is that once you have these Shenju out, she's able to go into her level 3 for free. As long as you have a Shenju ally, it costs 3 less to materialize, which is something I think a lot of other champions would benefit from having. A lot of champions don't want to go to 3 because it's just too much work. It's too much resources you have to pay. But by having a free way to go into your level 3, you can utilize your entire lineage. So she just has everything, in my opinion. She's super versatile, and I don't think there's any other place she could go but the top of S tier. She's not only more interesting than all of the other champions, but her aesthetics are super cool too. Just having all these different rocks that turn into these awesome monsters is something that I thoroughly enjoy. Next is the one champion from the 6th expansion, Abyssal Heaven, that doesn't come from a Recollection deck, and it's Lubu. Now, Lubu, as you can see here, is very powerful, with 8 attack and more health than any other champion, and she's level 4. But the question is, how do you get to that? And here is the main flaw, and what I hate the most about this champion. You first need to play Lubu as an ally, which is a Terra type, which means you have to get to level 3 of a Terra type champion. But not only that, that Terra type champion needs to specifically be Daochan, one of the most difficult to utilize as a level 3. She, on her own, is a pretty strong ally. She can take the game herself. But to flip into this awesome Lubu Wrath Incarnate, you have to die with exactly 32 damage counters on you. And to not bring up Dao Chan's level 3 on screen here, but she only has 25 health, which means you don't have to die with exactly her amount of health. You have to die with 7 more damage on her than normal, which means you have to jump through a massive amount of hoops to actually bring her out. And I personally have jumped through those hoops just to say I flipped into Lubu. And to prove how stupid this endeavor is, there were like 2 or 3 turns in that game I could have just killed my opponent, and I didn't, simply out of principle. I just wanted to finally flip this card and get to attack with Lubu. And when I went to 32 damage counters and flipped, they immediately conceded. So Lubu, despite looking fantastic, is going to go in D tier, where she belongs. How they could completely mess up this, frankly, good idea it is baffling to me, and I will not forgive them for that. I'm going to go out of order here, and the next champion I'm going to talk about is Alice from the most recent set, Distorted Reflections. Alice only has a level 1, which is her first problem. She specifically works with chessman cards. Now, I'm not going to put all of them on the screen, not because there are so many of them, but because there are so few of them. These are 2 of 4 chessman cards in the entire set, one of which being an Umbra card, meaning you specifically have to go into an Umbra champion. And I don't know how they could overlook this so much. I mean, why even print this champion in the set if you're only going to print 4 cards to make her effective in any capacity? I mean, these cards aren't even all that phenomenal. You know? Like, you specifically need to get full value out of Lily, the Skewering Advanced card, the only chessman command in the set. And so you have to draw both of those. And just what's even the point? This champion infuriates me. And I understand they will probably give her support in the next set, but why not just wait till the next set to release her at all? I understand this is an Alice in Wonderland themed block, but you know, there are better ways to do this. And so they're the only place I could put Alice is D tier. And I would put her lower if I had another tier on this list. The penultimate champion in this list, we're going to go over Diana. Now, this is not Diana from Alchemical Revolution. This is a much more interesting Diana. This Diana, instead of using guns, uses Aether Wings, which I don't know exactly what an Aether Wing is, but it's some kind of staff. Either way, it's super sick. Aether Wings use, instead of bullets, Aether Charges, which are spells that load into the Aether Wing and shoot out, similar to guns, but in my opinion, a much more interesting way. Diana level 3, when she becomes distant, which is what some of her cards give her, it's just a status, gives her options to Glimpse 2 or Scry, which her level 3 Aether Charges synergize well with their Aether Calling abilities, giving them the power to just immediately for free charge them into her Aether Wings, or you can, in response to card activations that target Diana, you can potentially just negate them. So Diana is very, very cool, much cooler than her original design in Alchemical Revolution. And again, you know, she looks great. I'm not going to put her in A tier because, you know, she's great looking, but she does deserve to be in A tier along with the other girls. She's super cool. I saved one of the best for last on this tier list. That's why I went out of order towards the end. Because one of the absolute coolest designed champions to date is CL. CL, similar to how Kongming has her mastery over the shifting currents, he has mastery over servile possessions. What CL does is he puts cards into banishment with omen counters on them, which is super sick. Normally, I would say this butler, looks really snobby, and I don't like him. But as soon as I learned what he did, I said, okay, you've got my attention. CL, I was not familiar with your game. There are many different things you do with omens. One of the ways you can utilize them is by using in combination one of his attack cards, like Lamentation's Toll, and a super high attack action card, like Ubiquitous Blow. Put Ubiquitous Blow into your omens, 7 attack, and Lamentation's Toll for the cheap cost of 4 reserve cost can be swinging for upwards of 10 damage, and the servile possessions can add even more damage onto that. In addition to big bonks like Lamentation's Toll, CL level 3 has an awesome idea behind him. In whenever you get a new omen, you deal 2 damage to a unit. That could be your opponent or one of their allies. Just takes control of the game. And really, you just look at his design, his aesthetic, what he does, and there is no other place I can put him but S tier, along with my favorite champion Guoja and the funniest design, in my opinion, the Very Angry Jin. In conclusion, not everyone is going to agree with my rankings here. Everyone has their own favorite champions. Everyone has their own favorite play styles, but the beauty of Grand Archive is it offers all of those options to everybody. And I think that is really cool. There are other games that offer similar ideas in terms of champions and heroes, but a lot of them are gritty and frankly not my style. And I think a lot of people would grow to love this game if they just took a chance at it and played along with some of these champions.